You're listening to the Boss Yourself First podcast, Season 3, Episode 3. Welcome back to the Boss Yourself First podcast, where we practice the art and science of leading from the inside out. I am your host, Robin White, and today we are continuing with our season of permission. I want to take a moment to establish what permission means and understand its power in terms specifically of self-leadership. So we jumped a little ahead, jumping right in on our opening episodes, but I want to back up just a smidge and really define what we're talking about when we say permission. It's not the kind you wait for, and it's not like a gatekeeper's nod of allowance that you can enter. I'm talking about authentic permission, the kind specifically that you give yourself. The kind that quietly but boldly says, I'm allowed to feel this. I'm allowed to change this. I can move forward even if I'm not sure how it'll turn out. For me, permission means allowing and empowering myself and others to approach challenges and discomfort in order to grow. It's about saying yes to becoming more fully yourself. And it's the key that unlocks a meaningful, impactful life. It's not fluffy work. It's soul deep, often uncomfortable, and absolutely vital to your well-being. When you give yourself permission to fail, to feel, and to fly, you begin to write a different story, one that starts from within. And that is the power of permission, because we control what is within instead of waiting for our circumstances or the people in our lives to align with the impact we want to create. I want that power for myself, my clients, and for you, my friends. It's really accessible power to each of us, but sometimes we need a little extra support, a little clarity, some strategy to tap into it. And that's why in my book, I introduced 3 guiding permission principles. They are approach, adjust, and act. We're going to talk about each of them today and how to apply them, because you know that I want to leave you equipped to activate any insight you gain here. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the first principle of permission, approach. And okay, I've already said permission a dozen times, so get your permission jars ready. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, have a listen to Season 3, Episode 1. All right, so approach. This is where self-leadership really begins. Not so much focusing on control, not giving you a 90-day plan, but let's just develop some honest curiosity. Permission to approach means you stop dodging discomfort and start getting close enough to hear what your inner world is actually trying to say. Permission to approach is the foundation. It means turning inward with that honesty and curiosity instead of, watch out for this one, judgment. All right, so let me take you back to the season when I first started to write my book, 3 Permissions. This was 2019. Like I said, it has been a long process. And I was dealing with a bunch of health issues at the time. The biggest curveball, though, the doctor ordered me to be silent for 5 weeks, as in no talking at all, voiceless. That did not sit well or easily for me, because I talk to think, and I gain energy from talking with others. We found out really quick that in our household, I start most of the conversations. So to ease my frustration around all of those things and to help me process my thoughts, I decided to start writing about some of the self-leadership practices I've found helpful and have used for myself, but also have found helpful with my clients. And since I wasn't permitted to talk, permission weighed heavily on my mind. So those 2 things came together, and there you have it. In that silence, though, I ran smack into an old belief, one that actually hit me harder than I expected. I'd been told over the years from various sources that I was a great starter, but not a strong finisher. And it was a belief that reared up regularly when I started new projects. So for the most part, my coping techniques had been, I either drowned it out with just staying really busy or inviting a lot of noise into my life, or I pivoted from the project and didn't even start it. So the voice would quiet until I tried to write this book. But with the mandatory silence, And the way that I chose to express my words on paper, that voice that I normally could manage so easily, got really loud. And it was that belief, you never finish things. Like I said, I'd heard it before from a handful of past moments, but I'd unknowingly let that belief write a narrative about who I was. Good starter, not strong finisher. But giving myself permission to approach the belief, to really look at it, it wasn't easy. And it stirred up a lot of emotions. Shame, doubt, defensiveness, anger. But then when I stayed with it, I processed the emotions, I let them be, I stayed with it, I looked at it, I examined it in different perspectives, and I found something else. My belief was not entirely true. Yeah, I had started a lot of things, but guess what? I had also finished a lot of things, hard things, beautiful things. And writing this book was going to be one more. And that's the magic of this principle, approach. It creates space to examine the truth, feel the discomfort, and then build something better. When you slow down and really examine your thoughts and feelings and beliefs, you can rewrite them. It's the same process I walk through with my clients. We explore what's going on under the surface, what feelings are showing up in thoughts, and what results are they creating, and we look for what's real, what's outdated, and what's possible. Because here's the thing, if you don't approach it, you can't adjust it. And if you don't adjust it, you keep acting from the same script. You can't change a story you're too scared to read. Permission to approach is the page turn, my friends. Okay, the second principle in the 3 permissions framework is adjust. This can be a real challenge because it could mean letting go of what's no longer working, even if it once served you. In approach, we asked what's really going on, the feelings, beliefs, and patterns. In adjust, we ask what needs to shift. Adjustment isn't retreat, it's realignment with intention. And sometimes that takes serious courage, especially when the belief you've held, like I said, the belief was once a survival tool. It probably helped you out earlier in life and your brain grabbed hold of it and is still holding on tight, even though it's not serving you anymore. It might even be holding you back. One of my executive clients, who we're going to call Jenna, is brilliant. She's an experienced leader in a large wholesale organization, and she came to me frustrated and disheartened. Jenna was the only woman at the leadership table and was constantly being talked over in meetings. Her upbringing and her early work taught her to work hard, to not show emotion, to never brag, and it was rock solid. Her results were evident. But her voice, her actual voice, was getting drowned out. And those beliefs, work hard, don't show emotion, never brag, they worked for her until they didn't. When we started to unpack this, Jenna discovered an internal tug of war. The belief that emotions had no place in the workplace clashed with the very real anger, the feelings that were coming up, and the discouragement she felt when her contributions were ignored. This came down to a contrast of values versus visibility and emotion versus expression. And through the lens of permission, we explored the deeper tension, not just between emotional and professionalism, but between what she wanted and what she was unconsciously blocking. In working together, Jenna gave herself permission to adjust. She redefined professionalism. She crafted language that expressed emotion without losing authority. She reframed bragging as advocating for herself and for her team. And I want to be really clear here, this didn't happen in some magical ta-da moment. It was intentional, layered work over time. But I will tell you, even within a month, her colleagues started treating her differently because she started showing up differently. Permission to adjust isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more you on purpose. All right, here comes the final principle. Are you ready? Act. Let's be honest, this is where a lot of us stall out. We've done the inner work, we've journaled, we've coached, we've reflected. And while the first 2 principles are challenging, they're private, where the principle of act is public. Taking that step, making that call, asking that question. This is where permission really shows its power. It's where it flexes in the action. So I think about one of my students, 18 years old. And already 4 years into working for a retail organization, he had wisdom and heart and a track record of supporting others, getting results. And he'd taken my leadership course, which supported the idea that he was hungry to grow, really came in like a sponge and applied himself to the coursework and passed with flying colors and wanted to move into a team lead role. But he hadn't applied for one, hadn't even talked with his leaders about it. He was kind of waiting to be invited to apply. And when I asked him why he hadn't brought up promoting with his leaders, he said what I think many of us do, because I've heard it from more than one person. I don't think I'm ready. So we broke it down. What does ready really mean? Positive feedback? He had that. Check. Years of experience? So while he was young, he had 4 years of experience. Check. Intentional development. He had sought and passed a college leadership development class. Check. The only thing missing? Telling someone he wanted the role and asking to apply. That final leap felt vulnerable, like standing on the edge of a ledge and hoping the parachute will open. But he gave himself permission to act anyway, not perfectly, but courageously. And with his adjusted belief, which, as we worked through it, became, I've taken steps to be ready. So it went from, I'm not ready, to, I've taken steps to be ready. He gave himself permission to act. And within a week, he had an interview. And no matter the outcome, because this is real time, my friends, I don't know the outcome because the interview hasn't happened yet. But no matter what, he's leveraging permission and leading himself towards his goals. That's what this principle is about. Not waiting to feel ready, but using the steps we've unpacked here, taking courageous action and moving anyway, because you've done the work and you're willing to grow as you go. So permission to act doesn't require full confidence, just enough clarity to move forward a little scared. Okay, we've done it. We've worked through all 3 permission principles. So now what? You know, as I promised, I want to give you some action steps to take to engage with the learning and put any insights you gleaned to work for you. So for approach, this week, notice a thought or a feeling that shows up when you feel stuck or discouraged or one that you've been avoiding. Write it down and sit with it. Don't just write it down and walk away from it. Write it down, give it some thought, reflect on it, journal about it if you want. Think about different times when that particular thought or feeling showed up. What patterns can you notice? Were there similar circumstances? Were you with some of the same people? Did it all center around a particular memory? What belief is underpinning those thoughts and feelings? Remember, for me, great starter, not a strong finisher. But I shifted that to actually, I can finish things, hard things, beautiful things. Once you've done that, don't judge your answers. Remember, we talked about that judgment is a challenge. Don't judge your answers. Just stay in that curious place. That's where the shift is already going to be starting. Think about what you learned from approach as you move into the next step, which is adjust. Ask yourself, is this belief, the one you uncovered in step 1 in the approach, is this belief still true? And does it align with who you are, even who you are becoming? Is it helpful? What's a more accurate version I want to begin believing instead? What do I need to think or feel to adjust that belief based on the more accurate version? What's one small adjustment that would feel more aligned with who you're becoming, not who you used to be? Sometimes I have clients who really resist this, like I said, because you're letting go of something that served you well. But as we grow and evolve, some of our beliefs need to grow and evolve with us. Will they all? No, some will not. And that's okay, because they're still serving you. But the ones that aren't need adjustment. All right, finally, act. Think about the adjustment you just made to your belief. What is your more accurate one? If you believed that belief, if you believed it right now, what actions would you be taking? When you consider that action, notice if any resistance shows up. Think about my student, and the resistance that popped up was, I just don't think I'm ready. We shifted it, adjusted it. I've done things to get ready. That was accurate. So if in that case, If you're finding some resistance, I want you to list 3 things that you've already done to prepare and 1 bold move you could take this week to show up like someone who's already becoming who they want to be. So you make your list of things you've already done to prepare. It doesn't have to be complete. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just notice. Actually, I think I've done some things to already be ready. And then 1 bold move you can take to show up as if you're already that person. And if that feels overwhelming, that's okay. I have a backup plan for you. No worries. If that feels too big, what's the smallest action you could take to get started aligning with your adjusted belief? Just the smallest thing. There you have it, my friends. Approach, adjust, and act. And please keep in mind, these principles aren't one and done. They're a loop, a rhythm, a practice. And sometimes you'll circle back. Sometimes you'll start at the end and work your way back to the beginning, and that is okay. Permission is powerful because it brings you back to yourself, not just to your potential, but to your presence, to the kind of leader that doesn't wait for approval or perfection. So let me ask you today, right now, what do you need permission for? To feel? To shift? To move? Give it. Because leadership starts with self-permission. And when you boss yourself first, everyone else benefits. Listen, if you want to go deeper, my book, Free Permissions, will be out July 29th. And also stay tuned because this is a season of permission. Thanks for being here today. I'm so honored that you chose to spend your time with me. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs a little permission themselves. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or DM me on Instagram at Boss Yourself First or email me at robin@bossyourselffirst.com. I love hearing your stories. I'd love to hear where you are giving yourself permission or what showed up for you when you worked through these 3 principles. All right, my friends, until next time, take care.